just spoke with him again before we started, and it's impossible to do justice to introducing this individual. So I'm going to ask him to come and say a few words once I sort of introduce the beginning of this. But Leo is a native of Lead, South Dakota. And Lead, South Dakota, as you might imagine, is a mining town. So he grew up with miners and lumberjacks and the Oglala Sioux Indians. And so he had a very interesting background. I spent 6 years in Nebraska, Leo, so I understand kind of what that means. It's a special part of the country. So Leo then went from there to the Korean War and was, as a veteran, thank you for your service. And from the Korean War, I took advantage of the GI Bill and went to the Chouinard Art Institute in California. And from there, won the first Disney scholarship, which led to a long career with Disney. And so Leo was telling me before we started that he's been literally all over the world and all of the Disney installations except for Shanghai. He's been to China too. And he did paper models of all of the rides that Disney was contemplating. So he would take the blueprints from those rides and then he would create the paper models so they could then see them in 3 dimensions, and then they would either build them, modify them, or whatever. And so that, in addition to running a design firm in California for about 50 years, where he designed something like 1,200 album covers, he had an incredible relationship with the music industry. And I'll introduce David a little bit later. There's a relationship there you'll hear tonight. But even in the work here, Leo, I hope, will give you some indication of how these guitar images relate to iconic songs in the music industry. So we've got an incredible individual with us who has an amazing art. We think of it here as paper sculpture. He thinks of it, the term he uses is paper in dimension. And we were looking at it this week, thinking, how do you take paper and create corrugated folds on a curve? I still haven't figured that out, Leo, but maybe you can help me with that. But he does cuts and bends and folds, and he uses very sophisticated instruments in doing this. Scissors, X-Acto knife. He also uses a burnisher, and he uses acid-free paper, and occasionally he uses a paintbrush and an air gun and those types of things. So you can see the talent that's here. I don't have to explain that any further, but I'd like to ask Leo to come and share with you some of his thoughts and maybe some of his secrets in terms of how he makes this amazing art. Leo, we're delighted to have you this evening.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been since 1960 a heck of a ride in this business. I started doing paper sculpture in 1960, and as an illustrator, I illustrated children's books and posters and things all over the world. I had representatives everywhere: United States, Japan, Europe, and was able to travel to all these places. And the way I got started was really weird. And I did grow up in Lead, South Dakota. Lead means a bunch of rocks that stick up that lead people to the gold down in the mountain. That's where the Lead is. And it was next to Deadwood, which was a heck of a ride. Deadwood is still a wild place. Anyway, I went to the Korean War because I was required to attend from beginning to end. And in doing so, I was in Japan a lot in the occupation. My ship would be in Japan and Korea, both places. And so Japanese art has affected my work greatly. The paper arts. I'm kind of an icon there. I go to there every now and then and teach and do a workshop with the beginning students. So because I did that, I was involved with the Society of Illustrators of Los Angeles. I became president 3 times. And we were involved in the Air Force documentary art program. Well, I went all over the country with the Air Force. I didn't fly. I was a passenger, of course. but I've flown in F-4s and every kind of a airplane you can imagine. And then I went to Vietnam. They asked two of us to go and to document some Air Force activities. And so the first night, I was really tired. And they said, well, you're tired, but you're going to fly. So we were in this old C-47, which is what they jumped out of at D-Day, you know, and they had all the windows off and the doors, and they had these Gatling guns and the things loaded with ammunition. And we were flying around for about an hour, and then we started shooting somebody, and then a bunch of green flowers started coming up. Yip, 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 yip. And I yelled, they're shooting back. And the sergeant said, it's allowed. So I started a documentary art writing program with the Society of Illustrators and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. And I had illustrators going out at night on raids and up in helicopters and all kinds of things. And we had a big show the first time, and the sheriff said, I really like this. He said, but I don't have civilians that run programs. I said, well, who got qualified? He said, you. I was in the Sheriff's Academy so fast. I became a cop. I was in the Sheriff's Department for 25 years, working on patrol in West Hollywood one night a week. And that was a real ride. West Hollywood was a very strange city, and to be a cop there was one of the most interesting parts of my life. So I've been a documentary artist, I've been flown into the Air Force, a combat artist, I've been a cop, a black belt in the martial arts. Bruce Lee was one of my close friends. So when I say I've had a heck of a ride, I have had a heck of a ride. And this is the biggest show I've ever done. I've done a lot of small shows, but this one really started because of the guitars. Now the guitars all have a meaning. For example, this one is Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash. This is Great Balls of Fire by Buddy Holly. That's Somewhere Over the Rainbow by Eric Clapton. He plays that song at the end of every concert. So every song, every guitar, if you read the label, it'll be about a song and a performer. Like Autumn Leaves is almost everybody, but I think I put in Frank Sinatra. I'm not sure. So read the labels of the guitars. The other things are just my general work. My studio is completely empty. I mean, I'm going to repaint the studio. Finally have a chance. So have a good time. Thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it. And I've got so many friends here. It's just amazing. Thank you for coming.
I want to make a few acknowledgments for some of our staff, if I might. We have our exhibits curator, Ashley Lanier, who I think Ashley's here. Where is Ashley here? There she is, back in the back. Ashley, raise your hand again so we can all see you. But Ashley is our exhibits curator who's been working with Leo and helping make all of this possible. I should also comment that Clara Curtis, who is our director of mission delivery, is here too. Where's Clara? Back in the back. Clara has been helping a great deal this past week getting this on the wall as well. So thank you both for your work. We also have tonight Jonathan Marshall, who is our youth program leader. Jonathan is here tonight not as the leader of youth, but he's here as a parent whose children are going to get their badges that you're going to hear about later. We have a wonderful relationship between the art and education in this exhibit. And then finally, I should mention June Jolly. I haven't seen June. Is June here? But June is our greenhouse manager and has been involved in doing the horticultural aspects of the exhibit you'll see in the greenhouse this evening. I also want to mention Winnie Huff, who's here, who's our tributes leader in the back. And I want to also acknowledge making all of this possible. B.B. Barnes, Garden Gift and Landscape Company, number 1. Number 2, Mosaic Community Lifestyle Realty. Number 3, Smoky Mountain Living Magazine. And finally, Henco North Creative Imaging. So again, thank you for those 4 sponsors for helping us make this possible. I want to now, I guess, turn attention to David and think about the relationship between Leo's career and music. David Dye, who's here to my right, is a recording artist with Airborne Records. And he's been playing guitar since the early 1960s, when you were about 10, right? Something like that. Two. And writing songs since the mid-1970s. He was raised in the Mississippi Delta, and so as you might imagine, his music combines country, folk, rock and roll, and as he says, a pinch of blues. It brings you a southern musical gumbo of Americana music. So I look forward to hearing your music. But I should also tell the group that David and his wife Kathy have been living in Barnesville along with Leo and his family for about 7 years now. And Leo said to David, if you would write a song for me, I'll do a label for you. So I think we're going to hear that song, are we not?
We are.
David Dye, thank you for being here.
That the main reason we're here is because, among other things, we love Leo. We love Karen too. But Leo is something else, isn't he? And I got to know Leo early on when we moved up here, and I can't get rid of the guy. He's in my head. So Leo made this offer to me: write a song, and I'll do the cover of your CD. So how do you fit Leo into a song? You know, Great Balls of Fire might come to mind, but one thing when I play, I have to say that from my 100-year-old aunt in Mississippi, I grew up loving birds, and Leo, that was one of my first real draws to what your art. I love it all, but the birds really grab me, and you'll hear some of that in this song. So I wrote this song for Leo, and it's The Colors of Your Heart. 1, 2, 1, 2. I had to readjust. Hold on. Talk amongst yourselves. You paint the colors of our world. You make the birds all dance and swirl. Round and round they twist and turn, while their colors burn into the mountain air. You paint the reds of our beating hearts. You paint the blues of our loves departing. You show us all our loves, joys and pains, amid our laughter, tears and chains everywhere. You could almost make a blind man see the light if you tried and tried and tried with all of your might. But when I look at all you've made in your wonderful parade, I see all the many colors of your heart. You paint the blues of my baby's eyes. You paint the golden of sunrise. You've turned to silver and to gold. You're the kid who can't grow old, don't you see? You make me sing and dance with joy. You make me laugh like a little boy. You're painting all the pretty colors that you chose while you're sitting on a moonbeam wiggling your toes at me. You could almost make a blind man see the light if you tried and tried and tried with all of your might. But when I look at all you've made into your grand parade, I see all the many colors of your heart. You could almost make a blind man see the light if you tried and tried and tried with all of your might. But when I look at all you've made into your grand parade, I see all the many colors of your heart. I see all the many colors of your heart.